Do you want to attack that first question from Jason Nichols?
Yes, Illinois here. I'm not a coach, but a dad with a 9-year-old pitcher. Is it too early to show him different pitches, such as changeups? Jason, that's a really good question. We actually had my brother Mikey on the show here last week, and he runs our entire pitching program here. And he talked about the importance of teaching players at that 8, 9, 10-year-old range a good changeup. I think it's a perfect time to teach them a changeup because usually at that age, kids want to start messing around with curveballs and sliders. And I think teaching them the proper grip, the proper arm action, and teaching them to trust the changeup, I think, is huge at that age. Coming from a hitter's perspective, changeup was one of the hardest pitches to hit. And the reason why is it looks exactly like a fastball coming in. So, at that age, it's not necessarily how much movement they're getting on the ball, but really the difference in speed. So, if your player can understand, or if your son can throw a 4-seam fastball and a 4-seam changeup, and maybe a 2-seam fastball and a 2-seam changeup, I think that's really gonna add value to him on the mound, as opposed to, at that young age, his body's not fully developed yet. There's really no reason for, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds to be working on a lot of curveballs. So I think it's a perfect time for your son to learn a changeup. That's a good question.
You know what? I think that another good question, we were talking to a parent the other day that's coaching T-ball for the first time, and he was really worried about some of the kids, like his son, really kind of mentally worried about, what if I swing and miss? What if I can't hit the ball? What if I hit the tee? So all these things are going on in his head, and the dad's like, I have no idea what I should be saying. I have no idea what he should be doing. So what we talk about in our T-ball course is start off with a dodgeball, and think about instead of hitting the ball off of the tee, right? Think about a dodgeball, and the dodgeball's about this big when you're hitting. I was looking for that guy. Think about hitting this instead. How much easier and more fun would it be for the kid to not be stressed out about hitting a baseball and just whack this? And you know what else is cool about it? Is the kids in the field can just run around, get it, throw it around, and it's like you're taking the game of baseball and making it really fun. So, for that coach out there, that T-ball coach that, maybe has a son or daughter that's a little stressed out about hitting the ball off the tee, it's a real thing, right? So if we can build confidence and use this guy first, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So
it definitely takes the pressure off the kids. We use smush balls a ton. We use wiffle balls. We use dodgeballs. I mean, even for the older guys, sometimes you get to the field and there's not even a batting cage set up. So, I try to get creative in pregame and just get our kids swings in. We'll have little wiffle balls. We'll have smush balls. We create as many stations as we can just to get them swings in before the game. Because I think a lot of times you get there and maybe there's one cage and the other team's in there for the whole time, during your pregame session. Or you get there and there's no L screen. Well, we've got to find ways to get our guys to hit and get their reps in before the game to make sure they're ready for first pitch. So again, using a dodgeball, using wiffle balls, smush balls, incrediballs, whatever you've got, just get creative as coaches and try to do your best to, work with the tools that you have and work with the areas that you have.
And you know what we like? We like the thumbs up and we like the hearts. If you like what you're hearing us talk about, put a thumb up, send a heart up, send up a smiley face. It gets us all fired up. So
I got a good one here, Duke, real quick before.
Yeah.
This was a question that was submitted over the weekend from Coach Mike Hoadley. Hey guys, love the site and all the education you provide. It certainly helps us as coaches get better. I'm looking for advice. I have 4 weeks left of my practices. It's 1 time a week, and he's working on arm prep for the season for pitching. I'm looking for the best way to utilize my hour and 15 minutes. I have 14 kids. They all need to work on pitching. I think that's a good question. We talked about it last week because we struggle with it too. I have 12 guys on my roster and 11 of them are pitchers. And sometimes in an hour and 15 minutes, you can't really find the space because you want to work on everything else. So one thing that we mentioned last week was at the end of the throwing program, after your players do their long toss, they do their quick hands, maybe they do their pick series like we always do at the end of our throwing progression, have each player partner up with their throwing partner and have one line get down in a catcher's position. Have them throw their hat on the ground in front of them and have that whole line work on throwing flat grounds. This way you're not using 25 minutes of your hour and a half or hour and 15 minute practice, but everybody gets to throw a 15 to 20 pitch flat ground bullpen. They can work on fastballs, they can work on changeups, work on their grips, work on locating. It doesn't have to be max effort, 60, 70, 75%, but to work on the pitching side of things as opposed to, just playing catch just to play catch before the game. We always try to play catch with a purpose and get those guys, ready for the day. But if you're struggling to find time for pitching, I think that's one good way to do it. And then one other way that we do it here is we'll have a coach hanging by the mound, and throughout practice, he'll pull one guy at a time. He might just throw into a target or one of the 9 square boxes, but this way you're not taking a group of kids all at once. You can still work on maybe your situational play or your bunt coverages or first and third, whatever you're working on that day, but one player at a time is going to get his pitching work in with a coach. I think, those are 2 ways that we do it here. There's no really perfect way of doing it, especially when everybody pitches, but I personally like doing the flat grounds. Yeah. I think that helps. And, as we get closer and closer to the season, I really like going live. So if you have the space and you're able to have your pitchers throw bullpens with batters in the batter's box, I think it adds value to the hitters and the pitchers. I think it's good for both of them. The pitchers are seeing live pitching. The hitters are getting used to throwing with a batter in the batter's box. There's so much value in that. And, we have cages that are long enough that we can actually go live and the batters hit. But if you don't and the kids are just throwing bullpens off of a mound, have them get in there and have the hitters shadow. The catchers are working, the pitchers are working, and the batters are working on their timing and their rhythm. There's a lot of value in that. So if you can find the space for that, I think those are three simple ways to add in pitching to your program.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I really like this question as well from Coach Albano. For weekend tournaments, my team's 12U. Do you prefer to have every pitcher throw no more than 20 pitches, then all kids can pitch on Sunday? If you follow the pitch smart guidelines, or do you let 2 or 3 kids pitch the whole game and then have the other 5 or 7 totally fresh for Sunday? I think it depends on what part of the season are you in. If you're in the beginning of the season, I think it's going to be hard for some of your pitchers to go complete games or throw deep into innings. You don't really know much about it. I think it's preference. So I think as a coach, I've done it both ways. Depending on the weekend, depending on who we're playing, depending on what the competition is, kind of worked both sides of it to where you save a couple guys that you can use later on Sunday as long as they're staying at very few pitches. And there's some guys that can't come back and bounce back after throwing 20 pitches. They throw their 20 pitches, and the next day they're really only 50%. Well, maybe some of those guys. That's not a good idea, but you almost don't know until you try it first. So I think it depends on the season and all that stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think trying your best to map out. When they were younger, I liked it, but as the kids are getting older, I try my best to set up, like a Saturday rotation with maybe a couple guys coming out of the bullpen and then a Sunday rotation. But it all comes down to who you're playing. I think the 20 pitch count is good, but also just be aware of how many balls they're throwing throughout the day. I think sometimes we just take a look at their pitch count and, well, he only threw 20 pitches on the mound, but he also threw 15 in the bullpen to get ready to come out on the mound. So now we're at 35. And, and then in game 2, he played shortstop and he's firing balls across the infield the entire time. So when you add all the throws together, I think that's where the kids start to get tired. I think the pitch smart rules are great, and it's, we've got to follow them. But, I try my best to, especially I have a couple kids that are catchers and pitchers. Right, I have shortstops and center fielders that all these kids, they play multiple positions. So I tried to stay away from having them pitch back-to-back days unless it's really quick. Maybe the closer comes in and throws 10 pitches or something, and then he can come back and close the next day. But I would just say monitor their throws when they're not on the mound as well, making sure they're not airing it out. At that age, those kids, they play tennis ball, baseball in between games too, and they're firing tennis balls all over the place in the playground. So really just try to monitor those throws outside of the 20 pitches that they're going to throw on the mound that day.
That's good. Remember, keep your questions coming. We have some from the previous podcasts that we've done, which we have a list of those. But one of the other topics that we wanted to talk about is creating a good team culture. And I think that as the season's getting ready to start, there's there's a lot of that needs to be happening with your players, and creating the fun environment, making sure that they understand what your expectations are as a coach, making sure that the parents understand what your expectations are as a coach, so everybody's all on the same page. One of the things that we like to do with our teams is we have two guys and we call them the lead hawks, and for that week those two players lead the stretching. They lead the batting practice routine. They make sure that the dugouts are clean. They make sure all the things that we talk about as a culture for our group, those two guys are the ones that do it. And it's really fun because it puts them as a leader. It forces them to step up to the plate, so to speak. So they go through and they do the warm up and make sure all the kids are in a line. They make sure everybody's doing it together. They make sure that once we get done throwing, all the baseballs are in the bucket. They carry the ball bucket over to the field. They make sure that the pregame routine's going on. They make sure that all the balls are picked up after batting practice. They're the last ones to leave to make sure the dugout's fully cleaned. And every single week, we do it with two different players, and it's a really cool thing because maybe that one kid that goofs off all the time, wait till you see what it's like when he's the leader of the week. He's a totally different player. He's a totally different kid, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there's a lot of responsibility. And it really has helped us a lot as coaches watching the players do that. And week after week, everything is clean. It looks great. It's organized. It's structured. It's because, let's face it, if they go to a different team or they're playing at a different level, the coaches might not be as structured. But if we can build that into the routine of a throwing routine, how to warm up properly, how to make sure the dugout's clean, all those things, no matter what level they go to, they're going to be doing all those things. And that's what a coach at the next level wants to see, a middle school coach, a high school coach, a college coach, somebody that's disciplined, organized, and a good team guy.
Yeah, I think you're teaching leadership there too. You're teaching these kids what it means to be a leader, and teaching them how to run a stretch, a throwing program, keep the guys energized in the dugout. One thing that we like to do culture-wise, and Duke and I coached together a few summers ago, and our team was playing good, but we kind of went through a little bit of a lull a couple games into the season, and he had given our team a talk about going all out and what all out meant. And he explained it as, we're going all out on every single pitch. That means, we're diving for our teammates. We're sprinting down the first baseline for our teammates. No ball's ever going to get dropped in the field. Errors are going to happen, but not mental errors, not errors, where we're not trying hard enough. All out in two-strike approaches. So we're going to do whatever we can to just pass the bat on to the next guy. If you're not in the game and you're in the dugout that inning, going all out in the dugout, being a top-step player, being a good teammate. So I think, finding a word or a phrase like that, it really helped us. Every time we broke the huddle, we didn't even say zone, we said all out. And it was just our, kind of like our little motto that got the guys fired up before every game. And we saw a change. We saw a change in their attitude, in their energy, in their effort level, and they just held each other to a higher standard, because now every single pitch, it didn't matter if we were up 12-0 or we were getting our butts kicked, we were going all out on every pitch. So finding a team motto like that, I think, is pretty cool. Duke gave a good speech halfway through the season, and it stuck with us, and it was just something that really worked throughout the rest of the year.
This is an interesting question by Coach Green. 8U coach pitch question. I feel our base runners are running base to base versus thinking of running from first to third. What are some good base running drills for this? We ran some really cool stuff with my son's 10U team last year. And what we did was, what happens a lot of times, especially at the younger ages, when you're playing T-ball, you're only allowed to run station to station. You're only allowed to go from first to second, second to third, third to home. You can't run two bases no matter how far you hit the ball. In our league, it was boom, boom, boom. That's it. So the kids they run to the next base, they stand there, and that's it. What we did was we put our players at home. We put half of them at home. We put some of them at first, some of them at second. What happened was, as soon as the ball's hit, you'd clap your hands. The guy from home would sprint to first base and break it down. The guy on first base would sprint from first and go all the way to third as the coach is winding him on. So he's recognizing and realizing at first base, I have to pick up the coach. So as the coach is going like this, the guy from first goes to third. The guy on second base does the same exact thing. So the hitter hits the ball, home goes to first, First goes to third, second goes all the way to home. So the guy on second sees this, and now he's running around third base and go all the way home. So everybody really is going 2 bases, except for the guy that's hitting the ball. He's going home to first. So that's a really cool drill where 3 guys start at home, 3 guys at first, 3 guys at second. You clap, and they all go through. But you can do any type of, situations that you want. You can put guys at first and they can go from just first to second and slide. You can have guys at second that are reading the third base coach as he's going through. But something that was super simple was just home, first and second. Everybody goes 2 bases except for the guy that's, hitting the ball goes to first base. But that's a really good way. And talk about picking up the coach. This means keep on going, keep on going. This means slam on the brakes. This means I want you to slide. This means I want you to slide this way, slide this way. So have your cues, and that's what we're working on with our guys now, so they understand. Sometimes I might go like this, and then be like, back, 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 back. So they know what those are. It's not just me yelling, it's them looking and seeing what I'm doing. As they're seeing the hand gestures, they're then doing it. So those are some base running things that we do, with our players.
Yeah, I like to do one in practice too where, we set up guys out on the field and we set up a certain number of guys at first base. And our rule of thumb is anytime the ball is taking the outfielder away from third base, we're going to try to go first to third. That means if I'm on first base and there's a ball hit down the right field line, that right fielder is working towards the right field line to field it, we're going to go first to third. If that ball's hitting the right center gap and the right fielder's fielding it and he's coming in, now he's got all his momentum coming towards third, so in most situations, we're probably going to hold it second. But if that ball's hitting the right center gap and the center fielder's fielding it, taking his momentum away from third base, then we're going to try to go. But it's making sure that the players are running with their eyes up. As we work around the field, balls hit to left center. If we're watching that play develop and the center fielder's going to field it, we're probably going to hold up. If it's hitting the left center gap and the left fielder's working away from the bag, now he's going to field it, we're going to try to put some pressure on him and go first to third. But I remember a coach one time told me in college, how far off the bag can you get on a lead? And, I said a step and a dive back in. And he said that guys are really conservative, especially when it comes to base running, because they don't want to get picked off and they don't want to get thrown out. But the only way you're really going to learn how aggressive you can be is maybe getting picked off once or going first to third and getting thrown out, but working on it in practice and putting the pressure on the kids to, don't be afraid of getting picked off. Don't be afraid of getting thrown out going first to third. Challenge yourself in practice and really test your limits to see how far off the bag you can get. How far off can you get on your secondary? How many times can you score from second to home? But challenge them in practice. Do live situations. Have the outfielders out there. Teach your players to run with their eyes up. I tell our guys, if the play's in front of you, you can read it. And again, we're talking 8U now, so I know they don't really understand the game as well, but teaching them at a young age to run with your eyes up and see the play develop. I think too many kids run with their heads down and focus strictly on just listening to the coach, that they're not really they're not learning a baseball IQ. They're not understanding the game and situations and the pace of the ball. It's like they're just listening to commands. And we as coaches sometimes get caught up in just like we're playing a video game. Okay, we're gonna go first to third, we're gonna go second to home. So using practice to teach those kids about those situations, teach them about reading the pace of the ball, understanding arm strength of outfielders and, when to put pressure on guys and when not to. But I think Duke's point about setting up those stations in practice is huge, and also try to simulate it as live as possible. I think both of those will help.
Thanks, Patrick. That's great. You love the lead hawk idea. We mentioned certain routines. Could you discuss these routines? Yes. What we'll do is we're going to put up on the screen, we'll put up what our dynamic warm-up is. So we have everything, and we laminate them so the kids know. So if you take a look here, jog down and back, high knees, butt kicks, side shuffles, karaokes, Frankensteins, single leg RDLs. Then we do some back pedal and runs. We do shuffles and a sprint. So we have this, we laminate it, and we put it in our bat bag or our ball bag. And then we just break it out so the kids in the beginning of the season especially, they might not know what they are. So they look at that, it reminds them of what we're doing. If, halfway through the season, if they want to add a couple extra things in there that they think is fun, it doesn't matter. But again, that way we have a routine. They know that they need to spend 5 minutes getting their bodies warm, getting their bodies ready to go. The next thing we're going to show you is the throwing routine. The throwing routine is going to pop up, and it's going to show exactly, it's an 8-minute throwing program. We do it every practice. We do it before every game, and it gets our arms ready. 1 minute, 15 feet apart, 1 minute, 15 apart, and it's going to show it, the figure eights. Then we go back to 20 to 25 feet, 35 to 40, and so on and so forth. But that's our throwing warm-up routine. Same exact thing. The kids are running that, and we're doing that routine. We have a batting practice routine that we do. We won't show that one, because a lot of people do different things, but it could be 2 bunts, hit and runs, get them over, 5 swings. Or, there's a million different types of, solutions for that. But, so those are some things that we do. And, the ways that you can find all this stuff is we have a 7-day free trial of our membership. There's over 800 videos. There's the templates, the warm-ups, the practice plans. There's codes of conduct in there. It's everything we have, and you can download them. You can watch them. There's an app. You can see them all from your phone. You can pull up the drills and the skills and all that stuff. So we'll put that in the comments as well. You can click on that, download it, and you get everything. So I know there's another question about a code of conduct from Coach Anthony. Hey, Duke and Steve, want to develop a player's code of conduct. Do you have any ideas in this area? 100%, we have one already done. We not only actually have one for the players, we also have one for the coaches and the parents. All 3 of us sign it. Why? Because we have to keep ourselves accountable as coaches. What do we expect? What can you expect from us just as much? Being on time, having practice plans ready, when we're going to be there for practice, those sort of things. Coach isn't going to curse on the field. He's going to, just anything that you're looking to do, you'll actually see it in the code of conduct. But then what we can expect from the parents, no yelling at the umpires. No, they're not allowed to curse. They're not allowed to talk about other players on the team. Different things that help build that team culture. So we'll make sure that we add that. It's all in the membership. And we'll be sending that over to you as well, Coach. So that way you have it. But those are some really good things with the code of conduct.
We got a good one from Dominic. On weekend tournaments, how do you balance the kids wanting to have fun, swimming, going out to eat, staying up late, with wanting them to be really ready to perform their best? Go to bed early, don't let the pool zap your energy, don't eat a bunch of nasty food, etc. That's a tough one, especially at that younger age, because you can't really control what they're doing. I mean, I coach our 16U team right now, and especially when we're going away on road trips, I'll let them know we've got a 11 o'clock curfew. You got to be in your room by 11. I'm not saying you've got to be in bed with the lights out, but we're not going to be out all hours of the night swimming in the pool, doing whatever 16-year-old boys are going to do. So I try to just put a curfew on them in that we've got to be in our rooms by 11 o'clock. I've been to Ripken down in Maryland before, where we've got our 10s and 11s, and those kids have so much fun just running around the whole place, swimming and watching other games, and it's a fun, enjoyable weekend for them. So I don't want to be too strict with them, but I think letting them know, guys, we've got to be in our rooms by a certain time. The challenging part is when you've got a 4 o'clock game the next afternoon, and the kids wake up early, they have breakfast, and now they're running around all day, and they're not ready. So one thing I did with my guys, we were down in Georgia. They were a little bit older at this time. They were 15 years old, but we did like a team lifting session. And I'm not sure what age you're talking about, but we had a 6 o'clock game at night. I told the guys, have breakfast. We're going to meet in the weight room at 11. And it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything that was going to beat them up for the game that night. But we went down, we did some good stretches. We did some good dynamic warm-ups. We did some med ball throws. We did some push-ups, some planks, and we just had some fun with it. But it was a good way to just get the kids doing something aside from, going to McDonald's and hanging out and playing video games and being lazy all day. So I think the more things you can do team-oriented instead of setting strict guidelines and rules, I think helps. I think sometimes when you set strict guidelines and rules, you might, I don't know, make a couple of parents angry, or the kids might get frustrated, but maybe you limit it to, we're only going to swim until 11 o'clock this afternoon. Then you got to go home, you got to get a lunch. That's the challenging part, though. I mean, you coach your boys at young ages, too. How do you handle it?
I think, a good thing that we could do as coaches is just educate the parents on, what are some good practices, right? Like, if you have a game that's at 9 o'clock in the morning and then you have another game at 12 o'clock, how many times do you see kids just racing to the snack shack and they're double burgering and drinking sodas, and next thing you know, they go to the second game and they're like, oh man, coach, and you're just like, those aren't good habits. Like, that's not something good. So what can we do? We can pack oranges. We can, make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We can, so I think that, you educating them on what good nutrition is the night before, what's a good snack food in between games, making sure that they're drinking water and that everybody's bringing water and stuff like that. I think that stuff is a really good thing, because now that's going to be the alternative that you'll see a lot more kids, without saying it's mandatory to do this. Instead, you'll see a lot more kids with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or bananas or grapes and stuff like that. I agree with Steve that, his stuff was dead on point, and I'm just adding that little bit to that. But
we had a parent on our team. Every tournament last year, he would always bring a big Gatorade cooler. He'd bring a Gatorade cooler with ice packs, with Gatorades, with waters, a big bag of Snickers and a big bag of Twix. And I think Coach Duke was the one that had the most Snickers. I think we need to set a guideline for Coach Duke. He must have had 50 of those things every game. They're like the little mini bite size. And, we'd always get a kick out of it. But we've seen it. I had a kid on my team, he was 15 years old, and he's sitting there on top of the cooler eating Snickers after Snickers. And, the next inning, I asked him if he's ready to go warm up, and he needed an inning off. He was sitting in the back of the dugout. He didn't want to move. He was in a food coma. So just monitoring what they eat, I think, is really important too.
I think that, baseball players, they always say baseball players are superstitious. And every time that we'd score a run, I'd eat a little Snickers, and next thing you know, we scored 5. So I had to just keep up with the runs. That's why my pocket was growing. So, but that's funny. Yeah, I think that it's somebody said something about the White Claws at the game with the parents, making sure that they got to be monitored too. That's correct.
That is very true.
Too many White Claws at a game can create bad culture, and the code of conduct will then be broken.
Especially when you look out and they've all got the same travel coffee mug, the disposable one from home. And then it's definitely not all coffee from the same coffee shop.
Oh man. So how do you want to wrap it up? I know that we're pretty much finished. I want to, we always want to thank everybody. Your questions are awesome. Your comments are awesome. We really like to get back to. We like to go back and watch last week's, 2 weeks ago. Are there any extra questions on there? So if there's something that you can think of when our show's over to add, we'll make sure that we shoot videos. We'll talk about it next week, and we'll keep on going. But just make sure that we'd love for as many of you as possible to watch the virtual. If you can come down to Bridgewater, New Jersey, come on down. It's a free clinic for an hour and a half, and you can watch us get down and dirty and do our thing. If not, 12:30 to 2, virtual online. And that'll be awesome, as well as a Q&A as well there. So, come join us, check us out, see what it's all about. We're excited. The baseball and softball season's right around the corner. And I know Coach Steve and I, off camera, we're talking a little bit about the MLB, the lockout and this and that. And he had a really good solution to that one.
Yeah, I've been watching more college baseball and more college softball than I've watched in a long time. And I think it's a great way for people to maybe get away from Major League Baseball for a little bit and watch these talented kids, 18 to 22-year-olds, just laying it all on the line. They play the game hard. They play the game the right way. And it's things that we don't really see in Major League Baseball sometimes, diving into the stands, hustling down the first baseline. Like, these kids are putting it all on the line for their team to do whatever they got to do to help the team win that day. And it's things that we don't really get to see sometimes on ESPN. So, I've been tuning into ESPN Plus, watching these guys, and, it's a lot of fun to watch. And the culture and the energy it's something that, we all strive to have on our teams. And these are the best of the best college programs in the country. So it's been a lot of fun watching college baseball and college softball over the last couple of weeks.
So just wanted to say thanks again. Thanks so much for watching. Coach Duke, Coach Steve at Zone Sports Academy. Always remember, dominate the diamond. We'll see you next week, 11 o'clock.